Blood dripped from Travis Dorn's forehead as he stumbled to the Carolina woods, his prison uniform torn and muddy. Behind him, sirens wailed in the distance. Ahead of him, nothing but darkness and uncertainty. But this wasn't just an escape. This was the beginning of a war against the man who stole his life. What would you do if the system that promised justice became your executioner? If the judge who swore to uphold the law was the very one who destroyed you? This is the story of a millionaire who lost everything to corruption, a man who broke out of prison, not to run away, but to hunt down the truth. And in doing so, he exposed a network of lies that shook an entire state to its core. If you've ever felt powerless against corruption, you need to hear this. Drop a comment below and let me know. Do you think justice is really blind? Because after you hear what happened to Travis Dorn, you might never see the courtroom the same way again. Before 2014, Travis Dorn was living proof that the American dream wasn't dead. He'd built a construction empire from the ground up in North Carolina, turning dying small towns into thriving communities. His company didn't just erect buildings. It created jobs, revitalized neighborhoods, and gave people hope. Travis wasn't born into wealth. He started with a pickup truck, a toolbox, and a relentless work ethic that refused to quit. Within a decade, his business was pulling in millions. Local politicians praised him. Families thanked him. His name became synonymous with growth and opportunity. But success breeds envy. And in a world where money talks louder than morals, Travis's rise caught the attention of people who didn't want competition. They wanted control. Rival construction companies watched his projects multiply with growing resentment. They couldn't outbuild him. They couldn't outbid him. So they decided to destroy him another way. And they found a perfect weapon, a man in a black robe who was willing to trade justice for cash. It started with a phone call in the spring of 2014. Travis's lawyer told him there were questions about some of his contracts, questions that had turned into accusations. Accusations that were now criminal charges. Fraud, embezzlement, missing funds. Travis stared at the documents in disbelief. Contracts he'd never signed. Transactions he'd never authorized. Money trails that led nowhere because they didn't exist. Someone had fabricated an entire paper trail designed to make him look guilty, and it was convincing enough to land him in front of Judge Caldwell. Now, Judge Caldwell wasn't just any judge. He was known in certain circles as a man who could be persuaded if the price was right. Rival companies had been lining his pockets for years, ensuring their competition faced unexpected legal troubles. Travis walked into that courtroom believing in the system. He had evidence. He had witnesses. He had the truth. But none of it mattered. Every time Travis's legal team tried to present evidence of tampering, Judge Caldwell shut them down. Key witnesses? Blocked. Financial experts ready to expose a fabrication? Not allowed to testify. The trial became a theatrical performance with a predetermined ending. When the verdict came down, 15 years in the state penitentiary, Travis felt the ground disappear beneath him. His empire, his reputation, his freedom, all stripped away by a corrupt judge and a handful of forged documents. Have you ever been blamed for something you didn't do? Have you ever watched the truth get buried while lies were treated as facts? Hit that like button if this hits too close to home. Because what happened to Travis could happen to anyone. Prison doesn't just lock away your body. It attacks your mind, your spirit, your sense of self. But Travis Dorn refused to be broken. While other inmates counted down their sentences, Travis spent his nights under dim cell lights drafting appeals. Pages and pages of legal arguments, documented evidence. Desperate pleas for someone, anyone, to look at his case with honest eyes. But those appeals vanished into the system like stones dropped into an ocean. Denied, dismissed, ignored. During the day, Travis listened. He talked to other inmates, compared stories, asked questions. And that's when the pattern emerged. A man convicted of tax evasion. Same judge. A small business owner accused of bribery. Same judge. A contractor charged with safety violations. Same judge. Judge Caldwell. Every story was different, but the ending was always the same. Guilty verdicts, harsh sentences, and evidence that mysteriously wasn't allowed in court. Travis realized something chilling. He wasn't Caldwell's only victim. He was just one name on a long list of people who'd been sacrificed for profit. The obsession that began as a desperate need for freedom transformed into something bigger, a mission. Travis stopped thinking about escape. He started thinking about exposure. Because the only way to truly be free was to burn down the corrupt system that had caged him. He just needed an opportunity. The opportunity came on a cold morning in early 2016 during a routine prison transfer. Travis sat in the back of the transport bus, handcuffed, watching the Carolina landscape blur past the windows. Then everything exploded. The crash happened so fast that later, Travis couldn't piece together the sequence. A truck, a collision, the screech of metal tearing apart, bodies thrown forward, the smell of gasoline and burning rubber. When the smoke cleared, the bus was on its side. Guards unconscious or dazed, and one door, just one, had been ripped completely off its hinges. Travis, bleeding from a gash above his eye, his ribs screaming in pain, stared at that opening. It was maybe 3 feet wide. Beyond it, trees, freedom, and the most dangerous decision of his life. Run, and he becomes a fugitive. Stay, and he remains a prisoner of a broken system. He thought about Judge Caldwell. He thought about the other men rotting in cells for crimes they didn't commit. He thought about the truth buried under bribes and legal manipulation. And then he ran. Would you have run? Or would you have stayed and trusted a broken system to eventually get it right? Drop your answer in the comments, because Travis's choice changed everything. For the first few weeks, Travis was just trying to survive. He stole clothes from a donation bin, wrapped his injuries in torn fabric, and kept moving through rural North Carolina like a shadow. But survival wasn't the end game. It was just the beginning. Travis created a new identity, a drifter who picked up odd jobs, kept his head down, and never stayed in one place too long. He worked construction sites, restaurant kitchens, farm fields, anything that paid cash and didn't ask questions. But every night, when the world went quiet, Travis became a hunter. He spent hours in small-town libraries, using public computers to dig through court records, financial filing, property transactions, anything that could connect Judge Caldwell to bribes Travis knew existed. The evidence was there. You just had to know where to look. Bank accounts under shell company names. Suspicious real estate purchases that coincided with major verdicts. Patterns of rulings that always favored the same handful of corporations. Travis started reaching out, carefully, anonymously, a former court clerk who'd quit in disgust, a journalist who'd tried to investigate Caldwell years ago but couldn't get enough proof, a whistleblower from one of the rival construction companies who'd grown a conscience. One by one, Travis built a network in the shadows. He became the spider at the center of a web, gathering every thread of corruption he could find. Anonymous tips began flowing to news outlets. Documents appeared on journalists' doorsteps. Recorded conversations between Caldwell and corporate executives mysteriously surfaced. Travis worked with surgical precision. Each piece of evidence was calculated, timed, designed to build momentum. And Judge Caldwell? He had no idea the ghost haunting him was the man he'd sent to prison 2 years earlier. The walls were closing in. Travis just had to make sure they crushed Caldwell completely. It happened on a Tuesday morning in late 2017. The headline appeared in the Raleigh News and Observer, and within hours, it was everywhere. Judge Caldwell bribe network exposed. Years of corruption uncovered. The article was devastating. It detailed a systematic scheme where Judge Caldwell accepted payments from multiple companies in exchange for favorable rulings. Bank records, testimony from insiders, recorded phone calls. The evidence was ironclad, but it didn't stop there. The story named names, the companies involved, the cases that had been rigged, the innocent people who'd been convicted to protect corporate interests. Travis Dorn's case was front and center. The public reaction was explosive. Social media erupted. Protests formed outside courthouses. Families of other victims came forward, demanding their cases be reviewed. The state attorney general had no choice. Within days, an emergency investigation was launched. Every case Judge Caldwell had presided over for the past decade was flagged for review. Caldwell went from respected judge to national disgrace overnight. His assets were frozen. his law license suspended, criminal charges filed. The machine that had crushed so many lives was finally brutally dismantled. And somewhere in a quiet town, Travis Dorn watched the news coverage with tears streaming down his face. Not tears of joy, tears of vindication. Because the system hadn't saved him. He'd saved himself. And in doing so, he'd saved dozens of others. But his fight wasn't over yet. When Travis Dorn walked into a police station in Charlotte 3 weeks after the expose broke, the world stopped. The escaped convict, the fugitive, the man every law enforcement agency in North Carolina had been hunting. But he wasn't walking in as a criminal. He was walking in as a hero who'd expose the truth. The booking room was silent as Travis placed his hands on the desk and said 5 words. "My name is Travis Dorn." Within hours, the story exploded again. The man who'd orchestrated the downfall of Judge Caldwell had just surrendered himself. Public opinion was divided. Some called him a criminal who'd broken the law, regardless of his reasons. Others called him a hero who'd sacrificed everything to expose corruption. But the evidence didn't lie. Travis's original conviction was based entirely on fabricated documents approved by a judge who was now facing federal charges. The state had no choice. Within weeks, Travis's conviction was overturned, the charges dismissed, his record cleared. But freedom came with scars. 2 years of his life gone. His business sold off. His reputation forever marked by the word fugitive. Yet when reporters asked if he regretted his decision to escape, Travis's answer was simple. "I regret that I had to, but I don't regret that I did." Because sometimes justice doesn't come from the system. Sometimes it comes from the people brave enough to fight back when the system fails. Travis Dorn's story isn't just about one man's fight against corruption. It's about what happens when we refuse to accept injustice as inevitable. He lost 2 years of freedom. He lost his empire. He became a fugitive, a ghost, a man without a name. But he gained something more powerful, the truth. And that truth didn't just free him. It freed every person Judge Caldwell had wronged. It exposed a system that valued money over justice. It proved that even when the odds are impossibly stacked against you, the truth still has power. Travis could have stayed in prison, hoping someone else would fight his battle. He could have given up, accepted his fate, let bitterness consume him. Instead, he became the hunter. He built his case piece by piece. He turned his anger into action. And he didn't stop until the corrupt system that destroyed him was exposed for the world to see. So here's the lesson. Justice isn't something that's given to you. It's something you fight for. And sometimes that fight requires everything you have. If this story inspired you, if it made you believe that one person can make a difference, then smash that like button right now. Share this video with someone who needs to hear that fighting back is possible. And subscribe to the channel for more stories that'll remind you why courage, truth, and resilience still matter in this world. Because Travis Dorn proved something we all need to remember. The system isn't bigger than the truth. And sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to stay silent. What do you think? Was Travis a hero or a criminal? Drop your answer in the comments. I'll be reading every single one. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next story.